Thank you very much for clicking on this video. But before we begin though, I would like you to do two things for me. The first one being, do you see that little bell next to the subscribe button? If you're subscribed, please click it so you'll get an email notification telling you whenever a new video pops up on the channel. The second thing I would like you to do is to check out the Patreon page. The link is in the description. There you can support the show directly, but not only that, you can receive benefits and reward for doing so. Like getting to see every single new video before anyone else does with no adverts. And you can also get a copy of every single script we've ever written. And finally, you can even get your name in the credits. Thank you very much for listening and please enjoy the video.
You're welcome. Anyway, let's go.
Hey, are you okay?
Don't worry about it. I just had a bad dream.
Well, what was it about?
Well, in the dream, I went back to the time before I went to Hogwarts, and visions of my past just popped up, and memories I rather forget. I'd rather not talk about it.
I see. Well, you don't have to help me with this new compare and contrast episode. We can always put it off until you feel better.
No. We still got 4 more of these things to cover, so we better finish what we started.
Alrighty then, I'm ready when you are. Hello, I'm the Captain and the Cat, and together
We're the Cat and the Cap.
And welcome to Compare and Contrast.
And this is the show where we take 2 pieces of media under the same name, being it video games, movies or books, and compare and contrast them.
And usually on this show we wouldn't go over every single difference, because with an adaptation you have to make changes in order to stand out against the original.
So we're going to be getting the changes that matter.
And today we're going to be covering Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
It's going to get spicy!
The book was released in the year 2000 and its film adaptation came out in November of 2005. Now this is where I believe the book started to get very good, and I think this film is certainly a step up from Prisoner of Azkaban. But there are crucial elements from the book that were cut out of the film for some reason. But what are these crucial elements and what made them so interesting?
Let's find out.
So, once again, we're in Pivot Drive, just like the other films. Hey, wait a minute. Is that a snake? Where are we? Apparently, we're in a little town known as Little Hangleton. A dreary little town with a mansion on its edge known as the Riddle House. In the book, it was mentioned that the family who lived there died quite mysteriously, as no one knew how they died. The villagers suspected that it could have been Frank, the old gardener, as he worked there for a very long time and he was questioned by the police when the Riddles died. Since then, the house had changed hands multiple times, but Frank stayed the gardener, until one night he saw a light inside the house and went to go investigate. Inside the house, he overhears Wormtail, the man who portrayed Harry's parents, and a mysterious figure in an armchair, alongside another man. They had interrogated and killed a woman known as Bertha Jorkins about the Quidditch World Cup and details about the Triwizard Tournament. Frank gets discovered and is killed in a flash of light from the armchair. Then Harry wakes up in the Weasley's house. Now, I can understand why they cut this out of the film. Mainly because, well, if they revealed too much, I guess it would overwhelm the audience and the film would also lose its mysterious feel. Indeed. Shortly after, Harry wakes up and they head round to the Quidditch World Cup via a portkey. At the match, it's Ireland versus Bulgaria, and that's all the movie focuses on. In the book, Bulgaria had these mascots known as the Vila, these beautiful women that used hypnotism to get the crowd on Bulgaria's side. Oh, and in the same booth they're watching the match, they find a house elf like Dobby from Chamber of Secrets, known as, Winky. Oh, great. Now there's going to be several instances of myself saying Winky on the internet.
Well, aren't you controversial?
This house elf belongs to a quite harsh and prudent man known as Barley Crouch, who gets barely any development in the film compared to the book, but we'll get to him later on in the video. Mainly because shortly after the match, the camp is attacked by a bunch of Death Eaters, supposed followers of Voldemort. Shortly afterwards, a mysterious stranger conjures the Dark Mark, which is supposed to signal whenever a Death Eater kills someone. Then, for some reason, the Death Eaters just flee for some reason, and Barty Crouch's stunners apprehend Harry and his friends. In the book, Winky was supposed to stay in the top booth, despite the fact she was afraid of heights, and the Death Eaters were tearing up the camp. She also had Harry's wand on her. After inspecting Harry's wand, apparently it was the same wand that summoned the Dark Mark. This leads them to believe that perhaps Winky conjured the Dark Mark. Because of this, Barty Crouch fires Winky. After that fiasco, they head to Hogwarts, and once again, they have a brand new defense against the Dark Arts teacher, Mad-Eye Moody. Mad-Eye Moody is one of the coolest characters in Harry Potter. Not only is he a dark wizard catcher, but half the cells in Azkaban are filled because of him.
And his mechanical eye could see through anything, even invisibility cloaks, and even his own head.
And since he is the defense against the Dark Arts teacher, he then teaches them the unforgivable curses, the Imperious Curse, the Cruciatus Curse, and the Killing Curse. The Imperious Curse, Imperio, allows the user to completely control whoever they point their wand at. The Cruciatus Curse inflicts excruciating pain to every nerve of the body. If cast for too long, it could kill and or drive the victim permanently insane. And finally, the Killing Curse, Avada Kedavra. Not surprisingly, it kills whatever it touches, and it was the same spell that Voldemort used to kill Harry's parents. These curses are usually used by Death Eaters, and if you're caught using any of them, you get a life sentence in Azkaban. Oh, and have you guys ever noticed that Avada Kedavra sounds like abracadabra?
So the next time you're at a magic show, duck!
Shortly afterwards, two wizarding schools known as Beauxbaton and Durmstrang arrived to compete in the Triwizard Tournament. This is where 3 wizarding schools let their students over 17 enter their names and are chosen by the famous Goblet of Fire.
Title drop!
In order to compete, they have to decipher and pass 3 trials in order to win the Triwizard Cup and 10,000 galleons. Oh, and some students died in the past, but who cares when there's glory and money to go around? Several students enter their names into the goblet, and the goblet chooses a Crumb from Durmstrang, the Seeker from Bulgaria from the World Cup, Cedric from Hogwarts of Hufflepuff House, Fleur Delacour from Beauxbaton, and for some reason, Harry is chosen as well, despite the fact he never entered his name and he's underage. Naturally, this causes an uproar and the school believes that Harry bamboozled the goblet. Harry clearly did not enter his name into the goblet, but whoever did could not have done it out of kindness. The person that might have done it was Karkaroff, the headmaster of Durmstrang, mainly because he used to be a Death Eater, but we can't say for sure. Now, you'd think in order to fix this, they could just start over.
Well, no. The Goblet of Fire creates a magical contract that means once you're in, you can't get out.
Shortly afterwards, the rest of the school now hates Harry's guts because they believe Harry was able to enter whenever they couldn't. They even get these badges that read Potter Stinks or Support Cedric Diggory, the real Hogwarts champion. Even Ron doesn't believe Harry and they end up falling out. With all of this going on up until the first trial,
This gives us a chance to talk about some of the more peculiar elements.
for example, have you guys ever wondered how Hogwarts stays clean? Or how they manage to prepare massive meals every day? We're led to assume that it's just done with magic.
Well, it kinda is.
Well, believe it or not, it was all done through slave labor. Yes, believe it or not, it clearly states in the book Hogwarts has a whole host of house elves working in the kitchens. And oddly enough, once Harry, Ron and Hermione sneak down one night, Dobby from Chamber of Secrets is working there, and he's even paid for it. Oh, and secondly, Hermione in the book tries to set up a charity called SPEW for elf rights, but it doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. Oh, and Winky
Excuse me.
is working there too. But after being fired by Barley Crouch, she cannot accept it and becomes a depressed alcoholic. Apparently butterbeer is very potent for house elves. Now, I think the only reason they were cut out of the film is because, well, I imagine the effects for the elves were quite expensive.
Or the filmmakers are okay with elf enslavement.
Shortly afterwards, we are then introduced to the despicable Rita Skeeter, the reporter for the Daily Prophet. Several times in the book, she published slanderous stories about our main characters, like making up that Hermione had been playing with Harry and Victor's hearts, or the time where she reported a story about Hagrid's mother, who was a vicious murderer who in turn painted Hagrid as a brainless brute who abused students, and later on in the book that Harry was a mad, attention-seeking delinquent. Oh, and she's an unregistered animagus, and she turned into a beetle to get the information she needed. Usually, it gets on my nerves when stuff like this is cut out.
But the less we have of her, the better.
After all that, Hagrid informs Harry that the first trial will involve dragons, but he'll have to get past them and capture a golden egg. And apparently inside the egg is a clue to the next trial. I wonder what's inside it.
What the bloomin' heck was that?
I don't know, but it sounded distinctly mermish. I know this because if the egg were put underwater, it will come out much clearer into a song, and the song goes as follows. Come seek us where our voices sound, we cannot sing above the ground. And while you're searching, ponder this, we have taken what you would sorely miss. An hour long you'll have to look to recover what we took. But past an hour, the prospect's black. Too late, it's gone. It won't come back. All of this basically means in the second trial, they're going to take something that the contestants will sorely miss and hide it underwater, and you'll have an hour to find it. In the book, however, after Harry discovers this, on his way back from the bathroom, he sees Barley Crouch on the Marauder's map, which is odd considering he hasn't been seen since the first trial. He even drops his egg and is nearly caught by Snape and Filch, but Mad Eye swoops in and leads them off. He then borrows the Marauder's map from Harry, which is peculiar, but it's Mad Eye Moody. We can trust him. Since Harry figured out the riddle, he just needs to find a way to breathe underwater for at least an hour. After searching and searching for millions of books, he has no luck until Neville suggests this plant known as Gillyweed. In the book, however, Dobby is the one who gave Harry the Gillyweed.
But what does Gillyweed do?
Well, it creates gills on the side of your neck and it webs your hands and feet so Harry can complete the trial. Speaking of which, I wonder what item they took from him.
It's probably his wand or firebolt broomstick.
This tournament is sick. But Harry manages to save Ron and Fleur's sister, and it lands him in second place. I guess saving 2 people gets you extra points. Sometime after the second trial, in the book more specifically, Crumb brings Harry to the Forbidden Forest to talk, only for Barley Crouch to appear. He appears to have gone insane and keeps asking for Dumbledore. Harry fetches him, only to find that Barley Crouch has disappeared, and Crumb is stunned on the ground. In the film, however, they just come across Bartley's dead body in the forest. I suppose this was done to keep the flow of the film streamlined. And with that, this leads us on to the pensive scene. The pensive is this bowl which you can contain and relive certain memories. The memory that Harry visits is Karkaroff's trial. Karkaroff was brought out of Azkaban to give names of his fellow Death Eaters in exchange for his freedom. And one of these names was Barley Crouch's son, Barley Crouch Jr. That's all well and good, but that's not how the book goes. In the book, Karkaroff's trial was a separate memory. The one with Barty Crouch's son, however, was a separate memory too. In that trial, he was apparently involved with the torture of Neville's parents, who are now permanently insane. It's unclear in the book if Barty Crouch Jr. was directly involved, but he begs and cries that it wasn't him. But his father despises all forms of the dark arts and never really cared for his son. So, he sent him to Azkaban, and he died there. Yes, I have no idea why they decided to make him proud and crazy, but he's dead now, so who cares? And finally, we're at the last trial, the Hedge Maze. Simple enough, walk on in and try to find the Triwizard Cup. In the book, however, Harry encounters a Sphinx, who will not let him pass until he answers its riddle, and it goes as follows. Who deals in secrets and tells naught but lies? Next, tell me what's always the last thing to mend, the middle of middle, and the end of ends. And finally, give me the sound often heard during the search for a hard-to-find word. Now string them together and answer me this. Which creature would you be unwilling to kiss? Now, if you read the book, you would already know the answer to this riddle. But you should give it a shot in the comments. Submit your answer.
Good luck.
Past the Sphinx, Cedric and Harry grab the Triwizard Cup, only to be transported to a graveyard. But then suddenly, Cedric is killed by Wormtail. He then throws what appears to be a deformed baby into a vat of unicorn blood and snake venom, Harry's blood, Voldemort's father's bone, and Wormtail's own hand, only to resurrect Voldemort into his human form. He then summons his Death Eaters, but he's not happy to see any of them, considering after his death none of them went to go find him. In the book, he describes how it felt to die and to roam around as something less than spirit. He possessed animals to stay alive, but their bodies collapsed after a short while. He eventually found Professor Quirrell and possessed him in order to get his hands on the Philosopher's Stone, but he failed, and he had believed himself to be forsaken, until they found Wormtail, and they used unicorn blood and venom from Nagini to return him to some sort of form. From there, they interrogated Bertha Jorkins and set this whole grand plan into motion. Now, since Voldemort has some of Harry's blood within him, he can't crumble whenever Harry touches him. With barely any energy and severely injured, Harry and Voldemort duel, and something peculiar happens. Their wands connect, and the spirits of all the people that Voldemort had killed pop out of the wand. They give Harry some encouragement, and he manages to escape. Shortly afterwards, Mad Eye brings him to his office and begins to act peculiar. He then reveals he was the one who entered his name into the Goblet of Fire, and also ensured that Harry won in the end, and to get him to that graveyard. Why would he do this? Because he is not Mad Eye Moody. He's actually Barley Crouch Jr. Yes, in the book it mentioned that in Azkaban, his mother persuaded Bartley to switch places with Junior, using Polyjuice Potion, and she died in there. Once Bartley took him home, he put him under the Imperius Curse, and Winky was assigned to look after him. But then Winky convinced Bartley to take him to the Quidditch World Cup under the invisibility cloak, but he broke out of it and stole Harry's wand and conjured the Dark Mark, but was swiftly apprehended and put back under the Imperius Curse. But then Voldemort and Wormtail arrived at his house and set Junior free, and put Barley under the Imperius curse. But he broke out too, and was half insane, so Junior just killed him and transfigured him into a bone and buried it. Okay, Barty Crouch Jr. is probably my favourite Harry Potter character.
Not only did he introduce Mad-Eyed Moody, he's also extremely devious and intelligent.
Which is why it's so painful whenever a great character is portrayed so poorly in the movie. In the movie, none of that is touched upon, and Junior is just portrayed as a loyal and crazy Death Eater, nothing more. And it's such a waste of David Tennant's talents. Shortly afterwards, in the book more specifically, Harry has to explain to Dumbledore everything that happened in the graveyard. To Harry, it was almost like reliving the entire experience, but Dumbledore insists that if he were to put it off, it would just be more painful to deal with later. After the explanation, Harry is given a potion that will induce dreamless sleep, only to be woken up an hour later. Cornelius Fudge had ordered a Dementor to deliver the Dementor's kiss on Barley Crouch Jr., erasing a second witness to Voldemort's return. To add even more salt to the wound, he claims that Harry is a demented delinquent, and claims that Dumbledore is using Voldemort's return as fear-mongering to make his way into the position of Minister for Magic, which is completely wrong on all accounts. With Voldemort back from the dead, and stories about Harry being an attention-seeking delinquent floating in the air, the future does not look bright for our lightning-scarred friend. So, to conclude, I can see why people consider Goblet of Fire to be one of the greatest Harry Potter books.
But the film isn't bad by any means.
Exactly, but they cut out crucial parts from the book, which made it so interesting and even dark. And I think the film could have been a little bit stronger if they took the time to develop the stuff of Barty Crouch or the Elven Enslavement or even the Giant Prejudice.
But the book isn't perfect.
Exactly. I have to give the film credit for cutting down the Potter stink stuff.
Oh, and also there's a lot of filler in between each trial, like homework and classes.
Granted, it didn't force the school environment, but it just makes you yearn for something more interesting to happen. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. I'm the Cap.
And I'm the Cat.
I will see you in the next one.
Goodbye.